All right, welcome back. All right, so tonight we have it, folks. The beginning of the end. The beginning of the end. Tonight, the Mets drop 5-1 to none other than the Philadelphia Phillies, and that's got to signify something because we always beat Philly. But more importantly, we trade away Eduardo Escobar to the Los Angeles Angels. And Eddie, he had a decent last year, up and down, rocky road. But this signifies a lot of different things to come. A lot of different things to come. All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about Eduardo Escobar. We're going to talk about the prospects that we get back in the Eddie Escobar trade. That is actually a very significant trade, and there's a lot of details about that. We're going to break down the players in detail. And number 3, we're going to talk about what does this mean going forward for the Mets? What are they going to do? Is this just a one-off, or are we going to break this all down? So we're going to talk about that later in the video. But first, I just want to say the Mets sent out a cryptic tweet about Eduardo Escobar the other day. It had me puzzled. I had no clue why they sent it out. It made no sense in the position they sent it out. But now it just makes so much more sense. The Mets were working on this trade the last couple of days. They were working on this trade with the Angels. It wasn't just today. It's been in the making. So the other day, the Mets sent out a tweet. In the 8th inning, Eduardo Escobar came up to bat. He hit a single, just a regular single, bloop single, RBI scores. It was 4-2. The Mets were still losing. The Mets sent out a tweet, "Proud of you, Esky." And I was just puzzled. I'm like, why would they be proud of a guy? The Mets are in the midst of losing a bunch of games. They're doing horrible, and the guy just gets a single. Why would they put that out? But it turns out that they were working on trading him, and Eduardo Escobar was a guy who was a great clubhouse presence. He meant a lot to the guys in the clubhouse. He meant a lot to the guys in the front office. That was actually one of the big pieces when the Mets made that signing to get Eddie. They had high hopes for Eddie. They really did. I mean, Eddie, before he came to the Mets, he was really, the guy was hitting 28 home runs. The year before that, he had 35 home runs. He was very productive on and off the field. So he was a really big piece to a winning team. And, trading him away, it's kind of sad in a way because the Mets, they were supposed to win a lot of games this year. They really were. We were supposed to be World Series contenders, finish first in the division. We won 101 games last year, and now it seems like we're going to just break it down. And I know that's probably the wise move, and it's what we've been advocating because you can kind of see that it's not working. It's not working. We tried so many different variations. Buck, I got to give him credit. How many lineups did he put out there? I don't know. Did he put out a different lineup every single night? It seemed like that. So we want to wish Eddie Escobar all the success in the world. Last year with the Mets, like I said, it was up and down. He had 20 home runs, 69 RBIs. He had a heck of a September. So we're going to wish him well. So he's going to Los Angeles. And we're getting 2 prospects. And I want to detail these prospects in detail. But before that, I just got to say, the way Steve Cohen is approaching this and allowing Billy Epler to do what he needs to do, I'm a little shaky about Billy because if you look at the trades Billy Epler has made, not so good. But the approach that Steve Cohen is allowing Billy Epler to take might actually help us out. So Steve Cohen is allowing Billy Epler and the Mets. It seems like we're going to absorb most of the contract. We owe Eduardo Escobar $5 million. So we're going to absorb that, allowing the Mets to pick higher prospects. We're going to get better prospects back. And that is such a breath of fresh air because that is the opposite of what the Wilpons used to do. The Wilpons used to say, "Oh, please take more money. We'll take lesser prospects." So that is an opposite of philosophy, and I like that because Eduardo Escobar didn't have high value, didn't have much value, but we were able to get 2 top 20 pitchers, not 1, but 2. And if you look, and I actually looked on the MLB top 30 Mets right now, the first guy the Mets got He's actually a number 11 on the Mets' top 30 prospects. So that gentleman's name is Coleman Crow. He comes from the Los Angeles Angels, and he's already our 11th best prospect on our list. What does that tell you? So he comes into our system. He's the 11th best prospect, and we're going to talk about him second. The first gentleman we're going to talk about is our 18th best prospect in Landon, Marceaux. Landon is 23 years old. He's 6 foot, 199 pounds. He's a right-handed player. And first, I want to talk about how is he performing right now? How's he performing in his last 10 games? And I think it's very significant. So he has a 3-6 record with a 4.88 earner run average. He's pitched in 59 innings. He has a whip of 1.54, 45 strikeouts in 59 innings. Okay, so those numbers, if I'm just looking at those numbers, I'm looking at them right now. They're not really blowing me out of the water at all. They're really not. But if we break him down, he was drafted in 2021, so he wasn't drafted too long ago. He was in the 3rd round, 80th pick overall. So, you know, that's decently high. His scouting grades is he has a 50 fastball, a 50 curveball, a 50 slider, a 55 changeup, 55 control, overall 40. Okay, so I like that he's a control pitcher. He has a decent changeup, 55. That's pretty high. Anything above 60 is getting towards like the elite level. So 55 is actually pretty good. So Marceaux jumped onto the national stage as a Louisiana prepster who pitched for Team USA squad in 2017. Then stayed home for Louisiana State. He spent 3 years on the Tigers rotation. So he topped 100 innings and pitched a 2.5 earned run average to help him land in the 3rd round. So before he was drafted, he was pitched to a 2.54 earned run average. He was drafted in 2021. He hurled his way from high single A to double A in his first full season. So in his first full season, he already jumped to double A. Though he was only able to make 2 starts for the Rocket City because of a back issue, he returned to double A in 2023 and was traded, obviously, to the Mets now. Okay, all right, so he did decent in his first season. So if we deep dive into Marceaux, I'm going to have trouble saying that. He uses a combination of field foot pitching and has a huge competitive streak to succeed. Okay, so that's good. He has a very strong attitude. His fastball plays up a bit because it has a good run and he could command it on both sides of a plate. I love that. I love to hear the guy has good movement and he has good control. Good stuff. Okay, so good command, both sides of the plate, and it averages 91, 92. Okay, all right, now that makes sense because if you're throwing 91, 92 to be successful, you're going to need good control and you're going to need good movement. So he has 2 distinct breaking pitches. He manipulates the shape of his slider and curve, keeping hitters off balance. His low 80s changeup has very good fade and is often his best secondary pitch. All right, that's actually very good to hear. As evidenced by his 1.72 ground out to fly out ratio and just 7.2 strikeouts per 9. Okay, so he's not a strikeout guy. He generates a lot of ground balls. Marceaux is much more about generating weak contact than missing bats. The Angels feel he might have his best execution in the system. Oh, wow. So the Angels felt that he might have the best pitch execution in the system, which he's going to need to continue to have success with his average stuff at the upper levels. Okay. All right. All right. So let's unpack that. All right. So he's not a fireballer. All right. He's not a fireballer. He is a control guy. He's got movement on his fastball, and he's not a fly ball pitcher. He's more of a ground ball guy, and he doesn't miss bats. He throws to contact. Okay, so you know what? There are guys that are highly successful with this repertoire. Throws in the low 90s, control pitcher, good movement. You could be highly successful if you have that great control and you have that good movement. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. You don't always got to throw high 90s. But the fact is, he was highly rated. He was picked in the 3rd round. The guy has tools. He has tools. He is only, I believe, he's, like I mentioned before, he's only 23 years old, and he's our 18th best prospect right now. So regardless, we stack more talent. And this is just another chip that we add from Eddie Escobar, who at this point was doing really not too much. All right, so now we're going to dive deep into Coleman Crow. So Coleman Crow was, let's just say, the jewel of the hall. He ranks as our 11th best prospect now. So Coleman Crow is 22 years old. He's 6 foot, 175 pounds. He is a righty. He was drafted in 2019. He was drafted in the 28th round. Okay, wow, so he was a bit back. His scouting grades, his fastball, he has a 50. His curveball, 45. His slider, 55. His changeup is a 50. His control is a 50. And his overall is a bit higher. His overall is 45. Okay, so how did he come to be? The Angels had some bonus money left over as day 3 of the 2019 draft unfolded, and that enabled them to take Crow in the 28th round and sign him away from Kennesaw State. He didn't make his pro debut until 2021 because of the pandemic and pitched capably enough in single A, but opened a lot of eyes as the youngest pitcher in the Arizona Fall League by posting a 1.59 ERA. He was then pushed to Double A in 2022. He started the season well, but faded down the stretch. He was off to a much better start in 2023, but before an elbow concern placed him on the injured list. He was traded to the Mets. Okay, so Coleman Crow was doing very good this year. This year, he was 2-0 with a 1.88 earner and average. He pitched 24 innings. He had 31 Ks in 24 innings, which, that's more than 9 strikeouts per game. And he had a batting average against as 114, a whip of .63. So this year, Coleman Crow seemed to be putting it all together. So that's actually very, very good to when Coleman comes back. So now let's look at what type of stuff does Coleman Crow have. What does he have? So while none of Crow's pitches jump off the page, the undersized right-hander does have 4 different ones with a very good sense of how to use them. His fastball averaged only 90 miles per hour in 2022, touching 94, but it plays up and gets a lot of ground balls out because of its sink. Okay, so that's good. He can hit as high as 94, and he's got sink on his fastball. You need that movement. He throws his late 80s slider almost nearly as much as the fastball, and it comes with a very high spin rate to miss bats and out of the zone. He can fold in a slower upper 70s curveball at times, and his changeup flashes above average as well. Crow isn't afraid to pitch backwards, relying on his secondary stuff. Okay, so who cares about it? Pitches. All right, so in terms of his stuff. So it looks like he has an array of 4 different pitches. He's not a fireballer either. He throws in the low 90s. He can touch as high as 94. He's got movement on his fastball. It seemed like Marceaux's ball went side to side. Crow's ball dives down. So it looks like he's going to generate a lot of ground balls as well. He has sink on his fastball. His slider, it looks like he throws the slider a lot. It's a high 80s slider, and he throws it very aggressively. He actually throws it as much of his fastball, so it must be a pretty good pitch. And then in his repertoire, he also has a curveball and a changeup. So this guy has 4 decent pitches. Nothing like great, but he was pitching great before he got hurt. I think this guy's got decent upsides. He already slots in as our 11th best prospect. So for Eddie Escobar, getting these 2 guys that the Mets feel high on, I'm very high on that as well. We wouldn't be able to get guys like this in the past. So Eddie Escobar, who seemingly had no value, we were able to get 2 good chips. And that's what you do in a season like this. You trade away guys that you're not using. We don't need them anymore. So you get talent and you stock up the farm system. So this is a really good move for the Mets. Now, what does this mean for the Mets going forward? What does this mean? Are they going to start trading away all their players? That is the big question. And I think, without a doubt, yes. Where the Mets are right now, and they're not doing good. They're a bunch of games under 500 for a team that was supposed to win close to 100 games, high 90s. I mean, they're projected to win in the 70s right now. This is not good. They're on pace to win in the 70s, possibly low 80s, and that's going to be nowhere close to where we need to be. We are so far from a team that we were projected to be, it's not even funny. So if you look at the roster right now, we're going to start shedding veterans. We are. Guys like Tommy Pham, guys like Mark Canha, these guys are going next. They are. They really are. And once we start seeing those guys go, I think it's really going to hit us, because Escobar was a guy who got time on the field sparingly, but guys like Canha and Pham, they've seen time a lot more frequently. You're going to see, hopefully, I don't know if we can get anything for Vogel back, but you're going to see our veterans begin to go. And those are guys that don't present much value on a team like this. They really don't. They really don't. Once we start seeing Verlander and Scherzer go, that is going to signify a whole different level of rebuild. But I think that is to come. That is to come. Especially if the Mets continue to lose. I know everybody's still like hoping out hope. Oh, if they turn it around. But every single game the Mets drop, you don't understand. I did a video recently, and I believe it's titled Unacceptable. It might be that video. But it details where the Mets are in the standings. And it was just one game ago. And what they would have to do. They would have to play like over 30 games over 500, which is not out of this world. But you have to rely on teams ahead of them to play like 500 a ball and under. And those teams are playing close to 600 ball. So, so many things have to happen right now. And there's teams that have done it, but it's under 10 in like MLB history. There's not many teams that find themselves in the Mets situation at this point in the season with their record and that turn it around. There's just really not many. And I really think it's wise to break it down. Not long term. We have Steve Cohen's money and resources. This is not going to take a long time. You keep the pieces that are valuable, like Alonso, like Alvarez, like Beatty. You keep your top prospects. You get some more prospects in here. Let's say Max Scherzer, he's going to be pitching, 3.5 on an average, gets a couple more good starts before the trade deadline. That guy's going to have value. His contract's going to be cut in half. The Mets are going to be able to swallow some money. He's going to have value. A guy like that, the veteran presence on a team, he's still got good stuff. So, anybody who's upset about this, I know it's disappointing to not be good this season, but in order for us to be better for the future, we have to break it down now and be wise. We weren't wise in the last year. We were trying to use money as a Band-Aid. That's what we were trying to do. But if you do that, if you use a Band-Aid as money, it's so easy. That's not a good way for us to do things. I remember, as a Met fan, I used to see the Yankees give $100 million, $200 million to all these over-the-hill guys, and I used to be like, oh, wow. Okay, they're going to do that. They're not going to be able to spend on other players that are actually better. Okay, that's good for the Mets, as a Met fan, you like to see that. That was us. We're giving $45 million to all these guys who don't deserve it, and guys who are 40 years old. Maybe they did deserve it 5 years ago, but not now. It's just not the best approach. We have to build this thing the right way. And you see the Dodgers, they kind of reset this year. They kind of didn't throw out a lot of money, and now they're resetting. Their farm system is a lot better than ours. So we have to take a little step back, look at the way we're doing things, and just shift a bit. Okay, we're gonna track everything. It's very exciting. And you know what? Stay tuned, because it should be a lot of different things to come. A lot of things we didn't expect. So even though it's disappointing that the Mets aren't doing well this year, just know that the Mets are trying to do things the right way for the future. So that should give you a little more hope. All right. Well, thank you for watching this. If you made it this far, then please, you got to hit the like. You got to hit the subscribe. I really appreciate you viewing this. You don't know how much it means. I really appreciate that. Have a great day. Let's go Mets, and we'll speak to you soon.